Welcome to COVID Combos. I'm your host, Cyril Wong, and today I'm joined by Amanda Hess. She's a life coach from 3S Confidence. She helps women fall back in love with themselves and their appearance and their purpose in life. Um, Transforming people's lives is Amanda's passion. So, welcome, Amanda.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Thank you so much for coming. So, let's dive right into it. How is COVID-19 affecting you?
Yeah, you know what? COVID-19 is definitely affecting me from a circumstantial level, right? From like the circumstances that I'm experiencing in my personal life. My husband is an electrician, and so therefore he's not working right now. My kids, I have a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old son. They are both being homeschooled right now. And just not leaving your house and doing all the regular things is, I think, what everybody is experiencing right now, right? Like there's a definite change from what's normal. So
Yeah,
definitely
for sure.
experiencing that. Within my business, I wouldn't say that in my business I've experienced a tremendous amount of change. It is from a perspective of I used to do a lot of public speaking in person. And so obviously I can't do that right now. So I'm doing that more in an online space and trying to find ways to make that more effective and to be more valuable, I guess, in that space and trying to
Yeah.
figure out how I can make that work. But otherwise, things are probably very similar for me as they are for everybody else.
Yeah, I hear you. So how is coaching supposed to help people in today's world? So with myself, like I deal with a lot of anxiety, and I'm trying to validate some of my action because a lot of the things I'm doing are not yielding the same material wealth that are the key performance indicators for me. Like I need to drive sales, I need to drive these things, and I don't feel as um, productive, even though I'm doing a lot of mass action. So like, how can coaching help someone like myself?
Coaching is a beautiful thing, and I've been in the coaching world now for a few years, being coached, being a coach. And what I say about coaching is it allows you to see what you can't see right now, and the reality is a lot of us have places where we want to go. And what ends up happening is we think that if we reach that destination, that's where happiness lives, right? Like if I make $100,000, $500,000, $1 million, I'm going to be happy.
Mhm.
And so when we're doing all of these things, thinking that it's going to actually give us happiness, what ends up happening is once we get there, a lot of times we realize that the happiness doesn't live there. And even in a situation like this, where we're living through a pandemic, it's important to understand that we're always going through circumstances in our life. And sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad. But the truth is, we're going to experience death of a loved one, possible illness. You can experience divorce. There's a lot of different things that we can experience within our life. And so we're actually constantly navigating circumstances that are out of our control. But the difference about this particular experience is that we're all experiencing this at the same time. And circumstantially, it affects us a little bit differently. I mean, if you're a frontline worker versus somebody that's laid off and all of the in between. But what coaching does is coaching gives you the ability to have control of your life again. And what I mean by that is not controlling all the outcomes, although certainly the actions that we do change our outcomes, but really more so it allows you to see that what you're thinking controls everything you have in your life. And in this instance, it's easy to believe like I can't be successful because COVID, right?
Hmm.
Or I can't find my love match because coronavirus. But the
Yeah.
truth is that it's actually a lot of it is what we're thinking. Our thinking causes us a lot of suffering and pain because what we think really does affect how we feel. And if you consider it, like if you just even look at, say, somebody passing away as being a pure circumstance, like let's say your uncle dies, right?
Hmm.
If you don't know that your uncle died, you have zero feelings about your uncle dying, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you know that that's like a circumstance. Same thing with a pandemic. If there's a pandemic but you don't know anything about it and it's not affecting your life in any way, You don't know about it, so it doesn't
Right.
affect you. But then you start having thoughts about it, right? Like, so you find out somebody died and you're like, oh my God, that's so horrible. I feel so sad about that. And then you
Yeah.
feel sadness. Now, not all emotions are bad, and not all emotions are good either. And there's not actually good or bad emotions. There's just emotion. But the important thing to notice about your emotion is it causes you to take actions, which really does give you results, always.
Gotcha.
So yeah, like what coaching really does is it allows you to see how you give away your power and then how you can take it back.
So let's dig into that a bit more. I was actually just about to ask you, like, so what does coaching do? Like, there's all this circumstance and why, and like we've kind of talked about like why it's important. It helps you to kind of. It sounds like it helps you to reframe the questions, or like reframe the circumstance so that you can take a more proactive stance about it. So how does coaching do this?
Yeah, you know, I wouldn't even say sometimes it's about changing our thoughts. Sometimes it's about changing how we handle our emotions and our feelings.
Hmm.
How does coaching do that? Coaching is the way that I coach is I meet people one-on-one once a week, and we talk about what's happening for them. We talk about their beliefs, and we talk about their money values, and we talk about their relationships and their love for themselves, and all of the really important things in our lives that, you know, really sort of drive us forward, right? The things that we consider to be sort of integral to a full life, let's say, the
Okay.
experience of our humanity. What coaching does really is it lets you look at where you are, and it shows you, we look at where you want to be.
Hmm.
And then we start looking for patterns. And what happens a lot of the times is how we make one decision is how we make every decision. So a coach is going to be able to help you see some of the patterns that you're experiencing, and also show you how you're here and you want to go here, but you're actually sabotaging yourself.
Okay.
And then once you can see the sabotage, then you can start thinking, I don't want to do that. And one thing that my coach has said to me is that ultimately coaching is saying to somebody, hey, you're punching yourself in the face right now. Can you see that?
Yeah, actually, I experienced that a lot. I had a business coach for a little while, and she was saying to me, it's like, hey, like you're just really hard on yourself, like, and that's self-perpetuating. Like you may not understand it, but when you say, oh, I'm just not doing enough, that's not celebrating every step of the way that you're going. You're actually telling yourself you're not doing enough, and so every single day we need to practice being more mindful, being more present, and celebrating your wins. And so that was a pattern that they helped me to break. Um, it sounds like there's patterns that are good and bad that like you can help your or help your clients with. So I guess I apologize. What uh, like I guess like I had a hard time wrapping my mind around some of this, but like what I guess it's a good question to ask you. What does it give you, like in terms of like now that we understand these opportunities for change? What can it unlock?
You know, what it unlocks is literally everything. But the truth is that a lot of times people look at coaching and they think, especially business coaching, or like when you're looking at mindset coaching, oh, well, I'll pay for that when I can afford it, right?
Hmm.
But what you don't even realize is that you can make those decisions based on your other patterns. And so what coaching gives you is it gives you the ability to move a lot farther, a lot faster. And whatever that means for you, like coaching can just give you happiness, because once you start understanding really and truly that happiness is all here and it has absolutely nothing to do with anything that happens outside of you,
Hmm.
that's to me priceless.
Hmm.
And, you know, for other people, it might be your relationships, right? Like it could just mean that a lot of times when we're operating through our life, we start putting expectations on other people on how they should act. Like they have a rule book, right? Like you operate in this book. These are
Hmm.
your directions for having a relationship with me. And what coaching really gives you is it gives you the opportunity to see that the people in your life are adults
Hmm.
mostly. And those adults, they got to be an adult. And what an adult means is you don't get to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And so when you can start understanding that you cannot physically control all of the people in your world, but you can control how you think and feel about them just based on your thoughts, and it gives you so much more power and control, and nothing about them needs to be different.
Mhm.
Once you experience that, your relationships become so much fuller and brighter. And the reality is once you start learning how to affirm yourself and you start being able to say to yourself, everything's fine, I'm okay, this is great, no problem, and you start to actually believe those things, you are going to be able to do whatever you want. It's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it sounds very empowering. I know that from my own experience, like that has been the case. There's definitely some boundaries that can be redrawn as a result of like being with somebody that has an external view from my own perspective. I know that for a lot of business owners, especially, it's very lonely world. Lonely world. Like we're all struggling, not only in the business landscape, but you know, oftentimes we're also the leaders of our family or our communities, and you know, being at the top, like it's really nice to have somebody else to give you like a different mindset, or not give you a mindset, but like share a separate perspective
Hmm.
to help you dial in how you feel about a certain situation, or like how to handle certain situations, because sometimes like our emotions get really loud.
Our emotions do get loud, and because really it's our thoughts that are getting loud, right?
Mhm.
So it's really funny, like when we start experiencing certain emotions, we go down these like thought paths, and we do have this internal chatter that comes up, and a lot of times it's because we don't want to feel the way we're feeling. So
Yeah.
I don't want to feel sad right now. That's a really good example. Like I remember when I lost my mom, really not wanting to process the pain of feeling so sad.
Hmm.
And I just pushed away sad with a lot of busyness. So, like, sometimes we think buffering is like all these negative behaviors or they're unhealthy, but sometimes they show up in healthy ways. And it's really interesting, like, how these healthy things are ultimately not serving us. And so, when I was feeling sad, I pushed that down with getting really, really busy. But that came up later, right? Because that emotion doesn't go anywhere until you sit with it and feel it. And then you're like, oh, I'm not going to die here. Like, it's fine. I can
Yeah.
feel sad, let that be, process that emotion, and move through it. And I think that what coaching really gives you is somebody showing you that you're doing that. A lot of times we don't even realize it. And then we're looking for all the evidence too. Like when we say something to ourselves, then we find 100 other thoughts that are true. Like
Hmm.
trying to think like maybe you're really busy, right? Like your workday is very busy. And so you have a lot of things planned. And then you start thinking, oh my gosh, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. And then your brain's like, oh my God, you're right. I am too busy. And I have this and I have that. And I'm never going to get to this tomorrow. And I'm so busy. And when we
Hmm.
start having those thoughts, then we start to feel maybe anxious or overwhelmed. And when we do that, the actions we take are really interesting, right? Like, are we like dropping everything and binging TV when we feel that way? Are we pouring ourselves a drink? Like, what's happening? And what a coach does is they break it down, because we can see the behavior, right?
Hmm.
As adults, we see the behavior. We know the good behavior for the most part. We know the maybe not self-serving behavior for the other part, but we
Hmm.
can't break it down. It's hard to break that down for yourself and be like an objective observer and get to the bottom of it. And what a coach does is they get to the bottom of it.
Well, I think that I heard you say buffering, and this is something that's come up a few times in our conversation. Just to clarify, why don't we break down buffering, because like I think it's very integral to understanding the conversation that we're having.
Yeah, so buffering is basically escaping, right? So you're feeling an emotion that you don't want to feel. And then rather than processing that emotion, you go do something that either lessens the feeling or makes it so you don't have to feel it.
Hmm.
So that's really what buffering is. That's what escaping is, right? The
Hmm.
problem with buffering and escaping is a lot of times what we do is we look for pleasurable activities. That's often what we use for buffering. And what it does is it makes it so that we don't actually feel the negative emotion or
Hmm.
whatever. We don't feel that particular emotion. But because we haven't processed that emotion keeps coming back over and over and over and over. And the more that we push that emotion away, the more that we consider that emotion to be a problem emotion,
Hmm.
then the less likely we are to be able to process it. And what it does is it keeps us stuck in the negative rather than putting us in the positive, which is what we're trying to do with buffering. It's what we're trying to do with escaping. We think that by feeling pleasure, we can avoid the pain. But the truth is in order to feel pleasure, we need to feel pain.
Right, right. So it's yeah, buffering seems like something that a lot of people are doing. I've definitely noticed it a lot in my life. My friends, family. Yeah, there's a lot of emotions here, and it's hard to articulate, especially with such a unprecedented situation to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
We've been locked into our houses for over 2 months, some of us 3 months, and like it's still persisting. Like there are some positives, like we're starting to reopen. So yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of people that are probably experiencing a lot of buffering, that are experiencing a lot of very mixed emotions that could use some help here. So how are you helping? Is there anything that you're offering? Like what are you doing in your business to help other business owners get back into the driving seat?
Yeah, well, you know what? If you're looking for real help and you're really struggling, I really invite you to book a 60-minute consultation with me. It's free. It
Oh
helps
yeah.
us get a real big picture of your life. What's happening? What are the patterns? What's happening for you? And, really just even that initial consultation can be so valuable because it allows you to see your brain and see what's happening there. And then we can determine if whether or not me working with you one-on-one is a good fit.
Okay.
But otherwise, I mean, you can also follow me on my social media accounts. I'm on Facebook and on Instagram at 3S Confidence. You can follow me on LinkedIn under just my name, Amanda Hess. And, I just am I put a lot of content in there that's valuable. Even if you don't hire me for coaching, you're going to get value there. But a consult is so worth it because in the end, you get to decide whether or not you want to move forward, but you get to see what's really happening. And that's so valuable.
No doubt. That's really generous of you. So a 60-minute free consultation
Hmm.
for anyone that. Oh, what is the target audience that you're trying to reach? Do you only specifically coach women, or are men welcome? I'd love to just kind of break that down a little bit.
Yeah, you know what? I work with women and men.
Okay.
So I do target my audience, like on my marketing and everything else, is you're going to see a lot of women. It's women focused. But that
Okay.
being said, if my message resonates with you and you are a man and you need help, just don't hesitate to like reach out and book a consult, right? It's really the same process no matter what.
That's really great. I know that you and I have shared very many conversations about mindsets and as business owners and like what we should be doing. So I found all our conversations very, very enriching. So thank you so much for joining me on the show. Yeah, so this is Amanda Hess. I will link all her information below, so feel free to check that out. And yeah, thank you for joining us, Amanda.
Thank you so much for having me here, Cyril. I really appreciate it. This was great.
Thank you. All right, and we will have another episode come to you next week on Wednesday. So look forward to that. And thank you for joining us. Bye for now.
Bye.